So if you remember from before, I took everything that was in this program, copied it to the clipboard, and just threw it out onto Notepad++ or whatever your editor of choice is. So that's what I did. So I'm going to come back into here, and I'm going to do a file, save all, then I'm going to do a file, close project, which will bring me back up to here. And I want to create one last project today. All right? And that one last project that I want to create will be this one. So I'm going to create a new project. Again, choose nothing here, making sure that it says Java up here. Next, no templates, next. Come into here. Now I want to paste in this. Now, yours will only look like that if you use the same naming convention that I did. All right? But if your naming convention was different, you probably don't have a C users ranking, all right, like I do. But so far we did program number 1, program 01 or payroll 01, where we hard-coded in the values. Then we did payroll 02A, where we used, all right, the scanner object. Now we're going to do payroll 02b, and in there we're going to use a show input dialog and a show message dialog. All right? So I'm going to click finish. You know the way that this works now. I'm going to click on the arrow here, right mouse click on the source folder, choose new Java class, edu.rankin.jpscott.payroll with a big P, and I've got that. Then I'm going to go back to my former program that was right here, Control A, Control C, Control A, Control V. Now what I just did was I duplicated my last program and put it in here. But I'm going to start making changes. I don't want to use a scanner anymore. Did everybody hear that? So anywhere that here, so I'm gonna if I get rid of this import statement, I'm going to get red all over the place now. Every place that used the scanner. Does that make sense to you? But it's okay. I'll go in and fix it. But in here, when you want to use the input show dialog in the input message dialog, you have to import javax.swing.j option pane. And I'm sorry, it's javax, not Java. That's why I'm getting an error. javax.swing.j option pane. You have to put that in there. So you have to add this line or yours won't work. Now, once you add it, the little light bulb will come out and it's going to say, you've got this import statement there that you're not using. Just disregard it. Yes? I have never seen that before. You can try it. I don't know if it's going to hurt anything one way or the other. Or you can Google it and find out what Google says. I don't know what those are. So again, I just put in this import statement, and if I hover over it, it says unused import statement. And it does, if I click on that, it's going to remove it. Well, then I have to just add it in again or let the system add it in for me. Now, the good news is, the reason I had you do that, none of these lines here change. None of that stuff changes. All right? But I'm going to add 2 more string variables. Everybody hear me? I'm going to add 2 more string variables. One, I'm going to call input str for input string. Set it equal to the empty string. I'm just going to say temporary input string. And the other one is going to be called string output str, again to the empty string. And this one's going to say temporary output string. All right? Regardless of what you're doing right now, can you stop for a second and look at the screen? Does it make sense to you that the words input string and output string, those two are gray. The editor is telling us you're not using those. You've got two variables that you created that you're not using. So what we saw in Visual Studio is, remember we would get that green squiggly, which would mean that you had some, here it does it in gray. It's just the way that they've set the editor up. That's all. All right, we will change that soon enough. But this input string, I want you to understand this. This is maybe the most important part of the lecture. That we don't need that input string for these three variables. They're already strings. But these variables here that we're going to read in, they're not strings. So we're going to have to read those variables into strings and then convert the string to a byte or a boolean or an int or a double. Does that make sense? We're going to use something that are called wrapper classes. All right? I know a lot of you know much more about wrapping than me, but this is wrapper, W-R-A-P-P-E-R, because it's wrapping around it. It's actually also a subject in chapter 9 of the book, and they talk about it much more in detail. All right? So we're going to have to do that. This output string, when we get all done, we're going to build a big output string that has everything in it. You understand what I'm saying? Before we were just doing it one at a time, we're going to combine everything together into a big string and then print it out in a message dialog box. That's what the output string is going to be used for. All right? So I can go in here now and I can start by removing my scanner variable because I'm not using it. So that's gone. All right? These are all going to change, just so you know. These are all going to change. Now, depending on how good you are with copy and paste, etc., it's up to you how you do this. But what I want to do is this. I'll show you the first one. All right? What I want this to say is this. I don't even need a blank space there anymore. All right? So I want to do one of those for first name, then another one for middle name, then another one for last name. First name, middle name, last name. First name, middle name, last name. Okay, I think it's all okay. Trying to figure out why those are still gray. It says I'm assigning a value to it that I'm never using. Yeah, that's true. All those grays will go away in just a minute. So now I can get rid of these. All right. So if you're right there, you're all caught up. I'm not going to run this because I've got a bunch of stuff that I'm still using the keyboard. It would give me an error if I tried to run this right now. So does this make sense to people? Right there. That's going to bring up a little box, and the box is going to say, please input first name, and underneath that will be a little text box where I can put the first name. All right, and as soon as I put in Jeff, it's going to assign it to that variable. And then it'll do the same thing for the middle name and the same thing for the last name. The problem is right here. I cannot do this. You look up on the screen here. I cannot do this. Notice it's giving me an error because what I'm reading into that input dialog is text. It's a string. And I'm trying to slam that sucker into a byte. It doesn't work. I cannot do that, but I can do this. This is where that input string variable is going to be used. So I have to do that, semicolon at the end, and then say age equals byte dot parse byte input str. All right. Can you see the pattern that's emerging here? All right. So I'm going to do this, 3 or 4 more times. I'm going to have a parse int for the employee number, then a parse double for the hours worked, then a parse double for the hourly rate. I'm trying to separate it out a little bit just so you can read it okay. Do you need to do what? I'm sorry. You don't have to have any plugins, no. Oops. This is hours worked, and that should be employee number. Sorry. And that should say employee number. Employee number. There we go. So if you just stop for a second, if you look up on the screen here, I'm going to do a save all and a run, and tell it to run payroll. Now you'll notice, and for whatever reason, it shows up really, it'll be really small. I don't think I'm going to have any errors in here, but we'll find out. There, see that? That's the input dialog. So, Jeff, Paul, Scott, so right now it's still printing all the stuff out here. But I want to print that out into a dialog box, so we're going to do that next. That'll be it for today. Okay. After we've done this, when we get to this point right here, when we get to line 42, we have inputted values for first name, middle name, last name, age, union status, employee number, hours worked, and hourly rate. From the hours worked and the hourly rate, we have figured out the gross pay. Does that make sense? So we're already printing it with a system.out.println, but I'd like to also print that put it into a big string called output string, and then print it in a show message dialog. All right, so that's what we've got left to do. I can leave those here, that's fine. But I'm just going to start creating the output string. What is that \n doing? It's a new line. Now, if you look up on the screen, please, I'm not done. But if right now I come out here and say this, J option pane dot show message dialog null output str. All right, everybody see this? Okay. Now, if I save this and run it, it's going to still give me those same things as before, but what I want to show you is what we're going to end up building when we're all finished with this. So, Jeffrey, Paul, Scott. All right, 61, false, 1, 2, 3, 40, 25. See that? That's a show message dialog right there. So that's eventually going to have all of the information in it. That's about as GUI as we're going to get until we actually start talking about GUI. Okay, so that's what you print out when you get done. And it'll still print out on the bottom too. Again, if you fell behind, you're going to have to go out to the YouTube channel and watch the associated videos. All right? Hopefully you didn't think that this was too much rushing you through this. It's up to you. Question was, do you keep all these print lines on the bottom? You can do it either way. But what we've seen today then is just a overview of Java. And then the second chapter, we talked about the major data types, including the 8 primitive types: int, byte, short, long, double, float. So the int, the floating point, and the miscellaneous, char, and boolean. We've also used those in programs. We did a scanner object where we kind of mimicked reading from the keyboard, and now we just did a show input dialog and a show message dialog. All right. I think what I'll do tomorrow is I will give you time tomorrow for the first hour. So if you're behind on any of these, you'll be able to catch up. All right. And then what we'll do tomorrow is we'll just go right into chapters 3 and 4. Anybody notice anything kind of funky about this? First of all, if you look at my output that was on here, come on. See anything that looks funky? Notice it only has one decimal place. We're going to change that. We're going to create what's called a decimal pattern, and we'll do some decimal formatting. So we'll set it up to automatically put the $ in for us so we don't have to do that, and to automatically put it to 2 decimal places. We'll either get that tomorrow or first thing next week. I don't remember. All right. I think what I will do is, like I said, tomorrow we'll give you the first hour to try to catch back up if you're behind or if you're having machine problems or whatever. And then I'll go over chapter 3 and chapter 4. All right? And we'll do the same kind of thing. We'll write a couple programs for chapter 3 and a couple programs for chapter 4. All right? And then when we get to that point, that might almost get us through Wednesday. We'll see. But if you're listening on Thursday, I kind of did this last semester, I'll give you some kind of a pretest. I'll say this is the kind of thing you're going to have to do tomorrow. And I'll give you the period, the first couple hours to work on it, then we can go through it as a class. I mean, my goal in here is for everybody who takes this class to get an A.